I've got the 4 corners marked where I'm going to take my darts. And I'm going to put this on the banding wheel so I'll be closer to it. I've got this marked, the 4 corners are marked, and I can make sure that I've got that right because I've got my banding wheel marked. See, so I've got it marked in 4 corners. There's that one, and I can match it up. So I'm going to take 3 darts. And it's different from the dart from the creamer. This is going to be a triangular dart. And depending on how wide the triangle is or how narrow the triangle is, if it's an isosceles or an equilateral triangle, it's going to affect what the dart looks like. So I'll cut away a triangle that's wide at the top because I really want this to constrict. So I've just taken my fettling knife and cut that away. If this was not so wide and skinnier, it's not going to have the same effect. Look what happens when I put it together. So the wider and fatter the dart is, the more exaggeration you have in that kind of, I think of it as a hip. I'm going to use this as my template, and right now, and the clay is still on the soft side of leather hard. Again, my clay body will take this. You know, it can be a little bit even a little bit stiffer, and it still lets me bend it that way. Some other people's clay bodies might not like this. So you might have to change if you're going to try this technique. You'll have to try it at different stages to see how it works for you. So I'm using this as my template. I could cut a totally different size dart on this side if I wanted it, but I want this to be symmetrical in its darts. So, and the clay body that I use is Phoenix from High Water Clay. It's a white stoneware that is lighter in the salt kiln, but has a little bit of fine grog in it. I like it because it has great greenware strength and allows me to cut it up and do these kinds of things to it. So I've cut out 3 darts. And I didn't do the one on this 4th side because that's where I'm going to put my spout. So you can see what's starting to happen here as I'm joining them together. But I think you can see the form starting to come together. So now I'm going to go back, slip and score, and add a coil on the inside to strengthen that seam. When you are cutting pots like this, I talked a little bit about it when I was throwing it, about keeping the volume of the top of the gravy boat really full and having a lot of volume, because you can see that it really starts to tuck in. In the beginning, I was just using 2 darts and things were figurative that way. I was making pots that kind of went like this, but then they just had a front and a back to them, and I just felt like I was losing all the volume to it. So you need to think about what you want and how much you want your pots, what kind of personality you want the pots to have, and what interests you. So you might throw something and just put 1 dart in it. You know, I think that's what's so great about this altering technique, is that you can just take parts of it and try it on a form and say, okay, well, I'm only going to take 1 dart out of this and see what happens. I'm going to use my soft rib to clean that joint up on the outside. If you haven't ever cut pots, it's a little scary the first time. But I think if you are going to do it, you need to take that risk, because you can go through a lot of work of cutting and altering, and then the pot still looks around. So you really have to be brave enough to cut enough away to have it make a difference. So here is my little coil that's going to just go in the inside here. You know, again, this clay body, I don't really ever get any cracks right on these edges, but I'm always going to go in and fill in with this little coil to make sure that that joint is strong. And I'll come back out and clean this up one more time. And then it's ready for the spout. So the spout has been setting up, and it's on the stiff side of leather hard, and I'm going to attach it to the area where I did not take a dart out. You know, and again, this is how you can get the personality of your pots to come through. This is something where I feel like it's kind of like a beak, And it makes me think about that this pot is, once I want to pick it up and pour it. But you can already see that the gesture, because I've darted it, the gesture's moving it that way. And maybe I can try on my paper pattern for the smaller spout and see if I like that. So it's another way that you can kind of play around with this form. I'm going to go ahead and use the spout that I have ready for this. And I'm just going to cut on the inside edges here. And then around the base. I'll mark that on the inside of that though, so that I know that I've got this clay, the little bit of clay on either side of the cut to attach to the spout. There's the cut. So now I want to go back in and bevel this just a little bit so that the liquid, when it's poured through, will come right over that lip and into the spout. And now to slip and score. I'm going to try this on one more time to see where I need to score on the spout. Okay, I've scored the area where the attachment's going to go. Now I'm just adding some slip to the spout and to the body of the pot. And I'll attach that on there. You can see what it starts to look like on the inside here. I'm going to get in there with my fingers and smooth all this into the spout. I'm just using a gentle push. And again, I'm not going to get in there with a sponge or anything. I'm going to continue to just use my hand or a wooden tool to work that. So once I feel satisfied that that transition is nice and smooth and is what I want, I'll come to the outside and push this down into the pot. And this is where you want the spout to be leather hard, but a little on the soft side. And I can get in there with a rib and do the final smoothing. So now the join is smoothing together. And I'm paying attention to this transition right in here. I mean, you can still certainly tell that this is an attached spout, but I'm interested in having this little join right here be nice and smooth. Then we're going to be ready for the handle. The other thing I might do is, again, for a nice pour, take my forefinger and my thumb and sharpen that edge just a little bit. So now we're ready to add our handle. And I wrote out a coil. I made it really thick right here in response to the thickness of the spout. You know, it's a little trickier here because I'm going to attach this right at this top part of the dart, and I also really want it to raise up and reflect the spout and come up and end at the end of this dart. That's what I like about how this pot is set up when I do get to use darts, because it really helps me figure out those beginnings and endings of handles. So I'm going to just cut this a little bit at an angle. And again, you can see that I'm using a lot of clay right here, but I can pull out what I need and then cut off what I don't need. You want to make sure that the join on your dart is really strong, because once I start pulling this, I don't want to pull the dart apart either. So I'm working the clay into the pot first, all the way around. Working my thumb back into the pot and then pulling it down, and working that edge back into the pot and then making a pull. Also turning the pot so that I can use the pressure between my forefinger and my thumb on both sides of the handle. And you can see it's not quite as fat there anymore. I'm pulling that away. Now comes the lift. Oh, I went in the pull. Okay, so that still looks a little thick to me right in here. So So the nice thing is now I can just pull this back off and do a little, thin it out just a little bit more. And I can get rid of this extra clay before I do that. This is why I love pulling handles off the pot, is that I can respond to the pot and the form and the negative space of the handle right away. If I don't like it, I can come right back in and fix it. So here we go again. So I'm underneath. I'm gonna, when I turn the pot up, I'm really gonna pull this up too, so I get that gesture and then attach it. And because there's still some healthy width here, I'm just going to use my thumb and roll it back and forth to the base of that dart. And I can come in and lift this a little bit more.